Well, hello everyone, and welcome into our program, Justice for All. Well, we have a lady coming in. She's a former Jehovah's Witness. Her name is Stephanie Lynn Carson, and she's got some things to tell you tonight about what goes on behind the curtains, not only in the Watchtower, but with other groups as well. But Stephanie has been on the program now. This, I believe, is her fifth week, and she's getting people listening in and commenting. So you'll see the telephone number there. So by all means, call that number in and talk to Stephanie. If you've been abused in the Watchtower, you have some issues that you'd love to have Stephanie work with you on, by all means, give Stephanie a call here tonight. So let's bring Stephanie in right now. Hello, Stephanie.
Hi, Rick. Good evening.
So there you are. So you're ready to go tonight. You look wide awake and full of energy. So anything in particular you'll be discussing tonight?
Tonight we want to talk about legislation reform, and Brian's going to be joining me to talk about the different states and clergy penitent privilege exemption, and of course the campaign, encouraging people to come forward and what the campaign's purpose is.
Well, excellent. Well, we're looking forward to the program. So I'm here. I'll be working on those clips, and you just let me know if you need me. And thank you, wanting to come on and have the program here on the 6 screens. That's good. So let me get in here and give you. Okay. All right. I'm gonna. What happens? They changed my settings here on me. So just give me a second to take myself out of the stage, and. All right, I'll just do this. All right, let's do that. Okay, Steph, you ready to go?
Thanks, Rick. Appreciate you offering your platform as usual. So this evening, I've got my husband, Brian, with me tonight. He's been advocating with me state to state, helping me stay organized mostly. And tonight we wanted to go over some documentation and stuff that we've put together to help other advocates that would like to get involved with legislation reform. It sounds daunting, but it's not. It's really just as simple as you saying that I have been harmed, and this law, this loophole in the law, is what allowed the crimes against me to continue or to remain unreported to authorities. And that law we all have come to know as clergy penitent privilege exemption, which is a loophole in the mandatory reporting laws when it comes to child abuses. So we all know that the Washington state bill is being reviewed on a national level for constitutionality, but we reviewed that law, and we're thankful that people are taking notice and making changes, but there's a lot of damage that can still be done even with the reformed law. And Brian's going to explain to you why the lettering of these laws is so imperative that we get the wording correctly. Otherwise, it can have the complete opposite effect and cause more harm. So Brian's going to explain that to us.
Right. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of information out there on clergy penitent privilege exemption on Child USA and different websites, and we've used a lot of that information as far as the frequency of child abuse and things like that, how big of a problem it is when we go to legislators. And what we've found out also is the information that's reported isn't always accurate. And just an easy example is the Washington state law. It was changed to make clergy mandated reporters as they were before, but now in cases of child abuse, they're mandated reporters. And that is what the Catholic Church, the Pope, requested the DOJ for the United States to look into the constitutionality of that law and whether they can mandate that
because
over their exemption.
because
that they have.
they're claiming that the freedom of religion allows them to keep these crimes
Yeah.
secret within the penitent. So it may seem trivial, but it's not. These things escalate. For instance, and I know this might seem a bit off topic, but it's not really. The issue of abortion, and I'm not saying pro-life or pro-abortion is right, but what I am saying is that the Church of Satan has just now announced religious abortions to be performed basically openly. So they're taking the issues to an extreme. And it's the same with the clergy penitent privilege exemption. What is meant as a safeguard is being used to perpetrate and allow evil to continue. So,
Right.
go ahead.
So yeah, we may think that the state of Washington and some other states that have done away with the clergy penitent privilege exemption when it comes to children, and there may be 6 or 7 of those if the information is correct, that we won't have a problem anymore. But actually, the law in a lot of states has at least 2, if not more, loopholes in the law. So, by my estimates, there may be only 5 states. And let me explain. What's
Maybe
going
only
on with
5
this
states that have the law done correctly, is what you're saying.
Yes, right.
Yeah, so
So-
that's only 10% of our nation
Yeah,
is
so,
properly, that properly has the laws written to protect our children.
right. So
Doesn't mean that those states are following those laws to,
Right.
or the organizations are, but their laws are there and can be used to prosecute and to, further expose these harmful organizations.
and part of it is right, that they are mandated reporters when it comes to do with children now. That was added, but there's still another loophole in the Washington state law, which is going to allow the clergy penitent privilege exemption to continue.
And I think you explained to me that loophole is where if you're my priest and I come to you, or my pastor or elder, and I come to you and I tell you about this, even if you do go report it, now when that issue goes to court, you legally cannot be compelled to testify against me
That's
unless I, the sinner or criminal, sin can be crime, the criminal has to say, yes, as my priest or pastor, you can tell
right.
them.
Who's going to do that? Right?
Yeah.
So it does,
That's just
so it doesn't happen.
stupid.
So most of the
Nobody's gonna do that.
states still have this loophole where the clergy are not permitted by law to testify against one of their congregants, even though they're mandated reporters. Even if they follow that part of the law, there's at least this other loophole that is still covering it up. And what made me look into that is thinking back to when we were working with Barbara Anderson and the team from SCARS in California and trying to pass that law.
When was that?
That was in 2019, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
2018, 2019.
And yeah, so it was a while ago, and it went through the committees just fine. It went through the Senate 36-0.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody voted for it, and the House was about ready to pass it too. In that week, before the House was about to vote on it, the Pope told the bishops to set up a website. It's called Keep the Seal, and
The seal of confession.
and well, it had some misinformation in it because the law that we were trying to change was only when it came to do with children that can't defend themselves, and minors. And the letter in the website said that this new law would take away the clergy penitent privilege exemption altogether. So, normal everyday sins that they get repentance for from the clergy, and this is with all religions too, but that was what was told they were going to take it away. So the week that it was going to be voted on in the House in California, all this was happening. All of a sudden, they reacted quickly to it, and 130,000 constituents sent letters to Sacramento, California, that, hey, we don't want this law to go through. So all of a sudden, everybody was for it. Hey, we got to protect the kids. But because of being misled, and a lot of people ended up hurting more children, basically, because of that. So, but what happened in Washington was different because it just went through. There was no opposition whatsoever. So I'm like thinking, well, from looking at some of the other states like Pennsylvania and West Virginia, they have loopholes. In Arizona, they have these additional loopholes. Arizona's laws are really crazy. But we're going to take a look at the Pennsylvania law and kind of explain what we're looking at here.
Yeah, so
how we search for this information so that anybody really can do this, present it to your legislators.
Yeah, so the purpose of this podcast is to invite others to do this same type of work that Brian and I have been doing. And we will always be available to you via email or phone if you want to seriously get involved with changing legislation in your state or on a federal level. Again, our phone number is area code 817-609-5933. And the email address is paying, Paying, the number 4, sins, SINS, of others, paying for sins of others, at gmail.com. So if you want to be serious about changing legislation law, please get a hold of Brian and I. So before we continue to explain the legislation portion of this, I want to back up a little bit and talk about the Justice for All campaign. We have a goal. We've made estimates. The investigators, very highly trained investigators, have made estimates that there could very easily be as many as 50,000 eligible survivors to file civil lawsuits against Watchtower. Those of you listening, any survivors that you may know that were abused as children within the organization, and this law of clergy penitent privilege exemption held those secrets within the organization and not the authorities. We encourage you to encourage them to come forward to either myself through one of those contacts, or can you pull up Max's email? Or we're going to also ask you to contact the investigators directly. So 50,000 lawsuits sounds like a lot, but here's the thing. If we could get just 1 in 5 of those people to file lawsuits, that would be 1,000 lawsuits against Watchtower, pretty much on a simultaneous level, in a simultaneous timeline, which would absolutely cripple them, their legal department, and cripple them financially. So that's the purpose of this. If anybody wants to go ahead and call in now and talk to Brian and I, we want to open up the phone lines. And then in between all that, we're going to discuss the particulars of the legislation. So if anybody wants to call in and has any questions or wants to tell their story, in the meantime, Brian will start going over the Pennsylvania law.
Rick, were you able to open the PIC 1 PA CPP law?
Let me check that again, Brian. It was I was having some issues with the files. They're not being accepted here on the platform. But let me try once again.
Okay.
Uh,
Did you get the 6 attachments?
that's not it there. No, I got basically what I got. I was able to get a couple of them up. Let me try. So it was pick one, was it? Give me that again.
Yeah, pick one, PIC one, PACPP law.
Okay. Well, what it is it's a PDF file,
Yeah.
and it won't accept PDF files. That's the issue I've been having.
Oh,
So I'll go through what you might have to do in the future for files, but it won't take a PDF.
okay.
No. Yeah.
Maybe I could send it as a different type of file.
Yeah. Yeah. If you wanted to, if you could send it to a different type of file, it'll be fine.
Okay, let me do that. Do you want to talk about it for a minute?
Sure. Yeah, Brian will re-email you then. In the
Okay.
meantime, we went to Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, the capital, and met with lawmakers there. So we are going over the Pennsylvania law with them and trying to make adjustments in the law. And Pennsylvania has a lot going on. You know, we've got the Pennsylvania grand jury investigation. Pennsylvania also investigated the Catholics, and from my understanding, they are either currently or soon in the future going to be investigating the cult of the Amish. So Pennsylvania really has a lot going on and is really ripe for this change. But I guess
this is I was really this is Donald here. I was wondering if you got those that I think that last email I sent you with those litter samples in there.
I did. Thank you very much. And if I did not respond back to your email, I apologize. I've been running
Okay.
30 miles an hour, or 3,000 miles an hour. I did get them. So Donald has helped us put together like a template for the audience to use for attracting legislators to this change. So if anyone is interested, we have that to offer you, along with all the information that Brian and I have gathered to share. That is basically a. Do you remember, like, my mom used to sell Avon and Mary Kay, and she'd get the little packet with all the little samples and everything she needed to run her business just so from her house. Well, that's what Brian and I have done with these packets that we've put together, and that Donald, thank you very much, has helped in doing some of the writing for us so that we have.
You know if Texas is doing anything at the moment?
Texas is actually one of the states where the laws are pretty ironclad. That does not mean that the churches are following the laws, but the laws in Texas are pretty good.
Yep.
Pretty safe.
So what I hear you saying is you're asking people to be citizen lobbyists for changing the state laws regarding penitent privilege regarding minors. Is that right?
That is absolutely 100% correct. Very perfectly articulated, ma'am. Yes.
Because the first 20 minutes here on the program, I couldn't figure out what you were saying or what you were trying to do. So I think it needs to be clarified for the audience that you want us to be citizens who talk to our legislators about this. Now, again, how are you trying to change this regarding minors and rights and legislators, please? Thank you.
So how we're changing it is making it illegal for them to keep the secrets, no matter what the circumstances are, if a child's safety is involved.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And we have all the information to share. If you'd like to participate in the redress program, we have all the information on all the state laws to share, including the sample letters that Donald has written for us, so that we know how to approach our lawmakers. The second thing I'm asking the audience is we have a team of investigators and attorneys. A law firm has formed out of Washington, D.C. to take care of this issue for us with the Jehovah's Witnesses and the issues of concealed child abuse. What that law firm is going to be doing is they're hoping to file 1,000 individual civil lawsuits against the Watchtower organizations for crimes that were concealed against children, crimes against children that were concealed by using this clergy penitent privilege. If we can get, we estimate that there's 50,000 survivors. So if we can get 1 out of every 5, that's only 20% of the survivors to come forward and file his or her own civil lawsuit against Watchtower, we will make them crumble. It's just a matter of us all coming together. Now, we've got lawmakers lined up that are willing to look at this legislation, but we need more states involved. That's why I'm asking you to become citizen activists, if you will, whatever that wording was that you used. And we also have a team of highly skilled investigators. These men are former Navy SEALs, former Green Beret, former CIA. I mean, you name it. These gentlemen that are investigating these crimes against Watchtower, they are elite investigators. Not like us on a Google search and you only get so far down the rabbit hole. These are real men that can cause real chaos for the Watchtower. In combination of those investigators, we've also formed a massive legal team nationwide formed out of Washington, D.C., right in the heart and belly of our nation, to handle the influx of the Watchtower cases that will be coming forward. I started this myself. This has been my campaign for justice. I've told my story. I've told my brother's story. My husband's told his story. So I'm not going to rehash what happened to us, because what happened to us happened to almost every child within the Jehovah's organization. So our stories are not unique, unfortunately. But what is unique is this redress and this campaign for justice. So we've got the legislation, we've got the investigators, and we have a team of attorneys, all specializing in human trafficking, that are willing to take on these cases with, in most cases, no statute of limitations apply. So does that answer your questions on what the purpose of this meeting is tonight? I'll take that as a yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so what Stephanie asked me to do was kind of explain how we go about researching the laws, and it would be better if we could bring some files up. So were you able to open the new ones I sent, Rick?
Well, what I did is, because they're in like a letter, I'm still working on this one right here. Give me a second.
Okay.
I might have a different way of doing it here. Let me try to share my screen. I got a browser here open with it on there. I can't download it as a file, but I might be able to do it on my screen here. Just give me 1 second here, and I can see if we can get that in here. Let's share my screen.
Yeah, if you can try the search West Virginia law first, we'll start with that one.
Okay, well.
And I'll just basically explain what we do. So if we know we've got a legislator in Pennsylvania we want to talk to, okay, that's one of the bits of information that we do show the legislators a lot about the scope of the problem. And this was back in 2020. There was 300,000 children a year estimated that were sexually abused. A lot of people think that's a low number. If you can scroll down, Rick, to the table there, it's kind of hard to read, but that tells you what the laws are like in each state. So let me get so I can look at that myself here. So the first column is that the clergy are enumerated as mandated reporters. And there's about 25 states there, I would guess, that they have the privilege granted according to this. And then the next row down is clergy are not enumerated as mandated reporters. And there's a bunch of states there, about 7 states there. So there's different laws in every state. Basically, all the states, though, have loopholes, except maybe 4 or 5 of them that do not. And Texas was one of those. And so the loophole, even if they did abide by the first part of the law, like we were trying to explain it, and this might be a good time to get to that, but I think first maybe scroll down since you're in this document still, and get to, the battle. See if that keeptheseal.com will open up. That is the opposition that we're getting to the clergy penitent privilege exemption. So what the plan kind of is, if we can get all the states, or as many as possible, to come forward, just like Washington, and try to change these laws.
Because even a flawed law gathers the attention of the people. You know, things don't have to be perfect in order to start exposing.
Yeah. And you do not have to open that, but if anybody wants to go to it, the address is there, keeptheseal.com, and you can look at that. So we discovered that was part of the problem. All of us have, that are survivors were abused, and the clergy penitent privilege exemption played a role in that. And I've told my story before, but just to use it as an example, the average pedophile predator has 70 to 150 victims over their lifetime. And if you could stop it early, you'll save a bunch of kids from being abused. And so in my case, we know that there was a couple of boys that were abused before me. The elders at the Kingdom Hall knew about both of those. They did not report either of them. So that's when I discovered really that, this loophole in the law, and they don't have to report it, is the only reason why I was drugged and raped. And so my wife has really been leading this cause while I'm working. But what we've been trying to do is go around from state to state. And yes, we have not been successful at that, but that's the idea of Stephanie's plan here. You bring all of this at once. The
Right.
Civil lawsuits, you got people working on the legislation. There's people all over that want to help out with this. So that's just one piece of the puzzle.
It's a perfect storm.
Right.
If we can unleash all of this at the same time, it's the perfect storm that will make
Right.
them crumble.
So
1,000 lawsuits, legislation that will bring the average normal citizen that has never looked in on Watchtower before, or this issue. It is an ecumenical issue.
most people don't realize how bad it is.
Yeah. And we are living in a time right now where the First Amendment is being questioned more so than ever. Well, probably more so than the founding of our nation, because our founders fled the church for the reason of the indulgence tax, which the indulgence tax was the same as clergy penitent privilege exemption, being allowed to commit the most vile of sins and crimes and to keep them secret within the penitent.
Yep.
So we the rebirth of our nation, which is happening this upcoming year, our 250-year anniversary. No time is a better time than now for us to reestablish what our founding fathers, for their whole reason for coming here was for religious freedom. And that freedom that they were coming here for was freedom from oppression, the oppression of the church. And the oppression is the harming of the children. And so we just want people to come forward, file their lawsuits, and those brave enough to use their voices. You don't have to be a survivor to go to your state legislators and demand this change. It's really quite simple.
Yeah, and the latest estimates that they're putting out is there's about 30 to 50 million now, maybe adults, but people that were sexually abused as children. It's a pandemic. They were saying 1 out of every 8 families had a line of pedophiles. They've changed that to 1 out of 6. So it's passed on generationally as well. So it is a huge problem. And it's one that's being covered up by the clergy penitent privilege. So Rick, I saw you had the Pennsylvania law up there. So I kind of wanted to explain that. So what we did was, pretty much with any state, you can just go on Google, or I use DuckDuckGo, I think it is, and is that what's called? Yeah. So to do searches, because it brings up a lot more than what Google brings up, and so you can search for the state. So Pennsylvania clergy penitent privilege exemption. You can leave off part of the words. You can just leave off exemption too. But that's usually where I start, was search the state and clergy penitent privilege. And it brings you up. Usually it's like, one of the top 3 returns is to the government website with the legislation of what it is. So it might be palegislation.gov. I don't remember what this one is, but that'll at least get you in the right area to where you can find the laws. And they're all the statutes and everything are in there. So you can find where you can do a search and search for clergy or priest or penitent. You can search by different things to make sure you pick up all the clauses. So there's basically in Pennsylvania that I found, somebody else might find more possibly, I guess. But the ones that I found are shown on the screen there, and the first one is Pennsylvania statute amended Title 23, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but that tells you, yes, they're mandated reporters. That's in another part of the law, mandated reporters, but this is where it gives them the exception, except with respect to confidential communications made to an ordained member of the clergy, which are protected under state law. And we actually had one LDS bishop tell us, straight out, his job is not. He was a head of the senator of the Judiciary Committee
in Arizona.
Yep. What was his name? David
Farnsworth.
Eddie
Farnsworth. David's good. Eddie's bad.
Yeah, Eddie Farnsworth. Yeah, he told us his job was not to send people to prison. It was to send them to heaven. And he happened to be an LDS bishop. So he would have been, one of the ones that applied the clergy penitent privilege exemption. And we all know what happens by the indulgence that started in the 1200s was basically you can make a little donation and you are forgiven of your sins. And there's an exemption that they don't have to report it, right? So that's the whole basis of this. So that's in Pennsylvania. So that would be one thing you'd want to change. And that's what they changed in Washington, for example. So there's no exception for them there. But if you continue on looking through the Pennsylvania law, the next section where the clergy showed up and privileged communication, so it was a little bit phrased a little differently. And so it says, as a general rule, subject to subsection B, so remember that, the privileged communications between a mandated reporter and a patient or client of the mandated reporter shall not apply to a situation involving child abuse. So you think, wow, great. Relieve the mandated reporter of the duty to make a report of suspected child abuse. So this is great. Okay, when it comes to do with children and the CPS, their laws are saying that they're mandated reporters, and there's no exception when there's children involved, right? Until you get to B, confidential communications. So there it is again, just worded differently. The following protections shall apply. Confidential communications made to a member of the clergy are protected under 42, which is below that, PACS 5943, related to confidential communications. So if you look at the last section there, section 42, no clergyman, priest, rabbi, or minister of the gospel of any regularly established church can be compelled to testify, is basically what it says. So there's the second loophole in the law. So we have to at least change two of them in Pennsylvania to get a start on addressing this law.
Again, let me emphasize the importance of changing this law. Now, people want to mock me and call me crazy because I'm brave enough to speak about the child ritual murders occurring in our wooded areas and in the basements of our churches, including the Watchtower organization. People want to call me crazy. Well, I'll tell you what, it's not crazy.
No,
It's going on.
And
you being silent, you not fighting, you getting on screen and saying, ooh, I want Watchtower to come down. Well, how is Watchtower supposed to come down if we don't all come together and put an end to the murdering of our children? How are we supposed to live knowing that the sins committed against us were nothing in comparison to what these little children are going through? And now we have the Church of Satan, the Church of Satan, the synagogue of Satan, the same church that we came out of, just another branch of their occultism, now publicly claiming the freedom to murder our children and call it a ritual satanic abortion.
their First Amendment
Their
right.
First Amendment right. Because I'll tell you what they're doing in these satanic murders. They're also eating the children.
Yes,
Call me crazy.
They just
Call me crazy.
passed a law in Utah about cannibalism and SRA when it comes to do with children and animals.
And all the information we need to make changes is right at our fingertips. It's right at our fingertips.
Right. So yeah, the more of us that come together, that is a very passionate
We have
subject.
a bigger army than they do. We have a bigger army. And you don't have to be a Christian to fight this. This isn't about Christianity, but it is about saving the Christ-like mentality. Because Christ said, protect the children. Why? Because he knew child sacrifice existed. It existed in his day, and it exists now, and it's happening in the basements of our churches.
It's infiltrated our society. 30 to 50 million victims in the United States out of 330 or 360 million now, maybe. So, roughly 10%. So, if there's 8 million of, this is another, let's say there were 8 million Jehovah's Witnesses, and I've heard there's 8 million approximately out. So there's about an even number that have left. If that's the case, and 1 out of 10 was abused, which I think we'll be lucky to find out, that's 800,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we think it's higher than that because looking at the numbers of the Australian Royal Commission investigation, where they investigated churches like Catholics, LDS, Jehovah's Witnesses, Baptists, and other institutions, the Jehovah's Witnesses had the highest rate of predators per congregant. And the estimate was it was 24 times higher from what was reported between Catholics, which we know about, and Jehovah's Witnesses. And Jehovah's Witnesses have the 2-witness rule, and it started right from the beginning. That was their rule. The 2 witnesses, you have to have 2 witnesses. And so it is a pedophile paradise. That's where they go. They go there. They go to the other churches too, but a lot of them go to Jehovah's Witnesses.
So some things to understand is that the Watchtower organization does not operate on its own. They are connected to the larger cult of the world that seeks to destroy everything that is good. Last week we saw, a terrorist attack happen at an LDS church. We didn't see it, but we saw it on TV, right? Did y'all notice right next door was a Kingdom Hall to that LDS church? Have you noticed that a lot of times the two are near each other? It's kind of reminds me of Home Depot and Lowe's. So the people that owned Home Depot, they got a divorce, and the wife took everything, took half of what he had, and then she started her own company called Lowe's, and now she puts a Lowe's across the street from every Home Depot so that she can still take half of what was his, right? Well, these churches kind of operate in the same way, but instead of working against each other, they're actually working with each other, collaborating. Yeah, so I know the FBI is investigating that. I will not be shocked, between 99 and 101% sure that we're going to find out that there was tunnels connecting those 2 churches, meaning the Kingdom Hall and the Mormon church that was just attacked this last weekend. And my heart goes out to the victims of those families, not just the ones that died, but the ones that will have a lot of trauma from just living through that war experience, right? But the Jehovah's Witnesses came out of the Millerite movement, which is the same movement that created the LDS. And the LDS have always wanted to bring about the downfall of the American government, which reminds me of Watchtower. They want the same thing. So they are working together. So the fact that this child abuse is being allowed to be perpetrated and concealed within these organizations that wish to do our country harm, that is a matter of national security. And when this is a matter of national security, that is when our lawmakers take notice. So now is the time, and I'm very passionate about this, very, very passionate about this. It's all I have done with my life for the past 10 years is try to change laws, formulate investigations, and to bring together this legal team. So again, I'm using this space that Rick has so graciously provided on his podcast site for me to speak about the campaign Justice for All. So I'm going to go over it one last time. We want people to come forward and use their voice as citizens of this great nation. This great nation, I don't care if you're right, left, if you've got purple hair, if you're gay, I don't care if you're straight and married. It doesn't matter. We all have the right to use our voices. And what better way to use our voice than to protect the children of this nation, no matter what their religious background is.
Yeah, we've all been affected by it. It doesn't matter.
We all, meaning
all
the harm caused to me
all people.
causes harm to other people. And when the harm is done for the purpose of demoralizing and destroying our nation, it harms every citizen,
Yeah. It's passed on to generation and generations.
And the trauma lives within, and then we go on and hurt, or we continue to hurt ourselves, or we use drugs, or my brother's instance, he never captured life. He was homeless until the day he died. How does that benefit society when we have unhealed trauma? It doesn't benefit society. It only benefits the society, meaning the society, aka Watchtower, those that seek to destroy. So we truly are in a battle of good versus evil. Donald Trump said it was going to be biblical, and I am not preaching politics here, because the only truth that is our own truth. And if we don't collectively start saying our own truth, then the few will continue to get their way. And their way is silencing those amongst us that are most vulnerable. So next part of that is coming forward. If you have been harmed as a child within Watchtower organization, please contact either myself or the investigators. Max, his email is max@implicitgood.com, right?
Yep. IMPLICIT.
Implicitgood.com. And Max is waiting to hear from you. He's the intake specialist. He's the one that's going to be listening to your story and to figure out if they can make a case for you. I came across TikTok. She was going to be my guest tonight, but she had some other things going on, couldn't make the show. But, this is growing, and it's growing much larger just because the word of the mouth. Like, I was on TikTok and I found somebody that I hadn't met that is filing, her case, and she had no idea, how this all came together. But, the more of us that join, the bigger it'll get. And then eventually they will absolutely have to collapse underneath the weight. Let's go back and talk about the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Mormons real quick, because today they had their annual meeting, which is always held the first Saturday in October every year. Well, the Mormons have their annual meeting, stockholder meeting. So if you own stocks, you own part of the company.
Yeah.
So that would make them a company for profit, I would imagine. So my point is, the Mormons and the LDS, or the Mormons and the Jehovah's Witnesses, have their meeting on the same day. The Mormons and the Jehovah's Witnesses came out of the same Millerite movement. The Mormons and the Jehovah's Witnesses both want the destruction of America. And how are they doing it? They're doing it by sacrificing our children on many different levels, up to and including satanic ritual abuse. So that's the conclusion of basically what we wanted to share with everybody.
Yeah, I'm going through the comments to see if anybody wants to call in and ask more questions. We have more information we could share. I'm not sure how much time we have left.
Yeah, this is Thomas Hodgson from Lawrence, Kansas here. Are you seeing actual murders of kids? I mean, I know they do
Yes.
the abortion thing and
Yes.
and you know, like what's pedophilia. So they
Yes.
like take them down the base with something actually murder. I mean, the JWs or just the Mormons or just I know the Church of Satan is.
Both,
I didn't quite.
both the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Mormons secretly practice satanic ritual abuse. If you follow the case out of Fort Kent, Maine, the young woman grew up Jehovah's Witness. Her name is Shannon Simondinger. She has a current legal case against Watchtower. Her case includes one of these ritual sacrifices.
Like, I mean, they're actually, could you say they're actually murdering people too sometimes?
Yes. Yes.
Man, that's horrible.
The
We're in that turkey for how long? I was in 21 years of that. No wonder I didn't feel right. It always felt stressed.
yeah,
The whole thing is not guided by the Lord. It's a cult.
Yeah, most of the congregants are fully unaware, but the highest echelon of the organization is occultic, and the occult does, they do practice human sacrifice. And I personally, like I said, I've been doing this work for 10 years. I personally have spoken to dozens of survivors that have witnessed those things. Either it was their own child that was taken from them and sacrificed, or they witnessed other sacrifices. And like I said, the Catholics, the Mormons, and the Jehovah's Witnesses, I've spoken to survivors from all of those religious groups, and the Amish. The Amish also.
Yeah. What can we do? I mean, we got to get something done about this. We need to get the government involved, like President Trump and
Amen.
This stuff. This is absolutely horrible. It should never be covered up and kept real quiet. This is a very demonic, very evil, disgusting organization.
It is, and that's the passion that fuels this campaign, Justice for All campaign. I believe that this campaign holds the weight and also has the tools to take down the Watchtower and simultaneously the Mormons, because they are connected, which will further expose their darkness.
Yeah, we just need.
That's why there's so much mental illness, suicides, and all kinds of terrible crimes. They just cover it up and cover it up and cover it up.
Right.
Yes. And covering up the lesser sins, not that what happened to myself or my husband or any of the other survivors. I'm not downplaying anyone's abuse, but there are those that have suffered the unspeakable, and for them, we must be brave again as survivors and come forward and speak our truth, because it echoes a familiarity to what they suffered. And I know most of the people that I've spoken to that have endured this, they're incapable of the braveness that it takes to face that in a legal manner.
Right.
So those of us that have suffered less, we must speak for those that can't.
Right.
That makes sense. Very much so. It's like that threatened their lives and everything else.
Yeah, I was going to add in, a lot of people don't make it. There's a lot of suicides that come out of this, like homelessness,
people are doing this stuff.
mental problems, drug addictions. Homelessness is a huge part of the reason is because of child abuse. And I know, like in my case, my perpetrator, I'm pretty sure there was at least 5 victims that I'm aware of, and 2 of them have died or committed suicide by. And I've talked to other survivors, and they knew there was 4 little boys that were all drugged and raped, and 2 of them committed suicide. So the ones of us that do make it, like Stephanie's saying, and you're saying, we've got to come together. We've got to make this happen, and it's time. People are looking at this. It is time for it to happen. The investigation is going on.
Yes.
If I could get my congressman to talk to you guys, would that be possible? I mean,
Absolutely.
I mean,
100%.
Yeah. The hard part.
Horrible.
The hard part is finding legislators that are willing to take on the church. And
Yeah, because
they're very popular.
that First Amendment, it really scares the lawmakers and even the Department of Justice. I mean, I've talked to Kash Patel twice, the current FBI director, about these things. And I'm not really knowing if things are going anywhere, but I, keep knocking at his door. But, that First Amendment gets in the way a lot of times. And the freedom the freedom to practice your religion ends when it causes someone else harm. So if your freedom is harming someone else's life, then you should not be allowed to have that freedom. That's where it should stop.
It almost seems like their attorneys are scaring the pants off those people or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So the ultimate goal would be to get Donald Trump to write an executive order. We just need to make enough noise out here in the activist political world, if you will. Like I said, we're aiming to shoot for 1,000 civil lawsuits, individual lawsuits. So anybody listening, if you know any survivors, please encourage them to come forward. Even if they've previously been told that the statute of limitations has run out, or they don't have enough evidence for their case, please speak to my investigators. These men are miracle workers, and they have access to intelligence gathering that most don't.
And we can't get into some of the stuff.
Yeah.
But if you don't trust us, you can wait and see. If you've been abused and you
or reach out to your own attorney.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be our team of attorneys.
No, it doesn't.
No.
The idea is to bring all this up at once and have it come to a head. Exactly. And President Trump is aware of this. I will mention that he did implement 9 executive orders. His first executive order the first week he was in office was
the first
to
go round.
eradicate human trafficking. He ended up with 9 executive orders, and 5 of those are still in place that I know of. One of them, Executive Order 13818, is the one where if you can prove human rights violations, which we will be able to with all the human rights that have been violated.
Yeah, with all these cases coming forward, that will prove the human. And we're also working with the United Nations simultaneously, which is the last part of this
Human
Justice
rights,
for All campaign. Yeah, the human rights campaign.
Yeah. So I can't remember where I was going with that, but so he's aware of the problem. His daughter Ivanka, I think it is, she is very passionate about that too, so she helps out with that. Jaco Booyens helped President Trump write the 9 executive orders.
He's a South African. We work with a lot of people from South Africa.
He's in Texas. He's one of the reasons why the Texas laws don't have all the loopholes in it like most of the states do. And I think I got that from him, that there's 5 states that don't have the loopholes actually. So he's been working on this for 20, 25 years. His sister was trafficked, and so he, took it upon himself to find out what's going on. And so we definitely have hope out there that something's going to be done about that. And we need to get it done quick, because we have the opportunity.
And that's why I keep bringing up the thing about like the abortions and stuff, because this really has turned. It always has been, but the fact that this has been a spiritual war is becoming more evident by the way that they are bringing like the abortion to the forefront and saying, our religious right. Things are becoming more, as time goes on, it becomes easier to see the harm, and the world is waking up. And so now is our time.
Yeah. We need change.
And if our nation is going to survive,
and
the world
change.
Yeah, and the world's going to survive, then we absolutely have to get back to our roots as a nation, and that is not allowing the secrecy of the church, which was the same as the indulgence tax, which Martin Luther used to, fought against.
Yeah, in fact, Stephanie and Brian, I wanted to bring up here because I really appreciate your commitment to this, and you're very straightforward about it, and you're not hesitant to tell people what you know. Now, the strangest thing is, I've been doing this program for 20 years, and one thing that my former wife and I, when we started the sixth grade, said is we'd give everyone a voice, no matter what it would be. And even concerning satanic ritual abuse, which many ex-Jehovah's Witnesses totally discount. They won't even, they'll shut the 6 screens off. But we've talked about that. And I've had people come on here years ago, even 10, 15 years ago, that were ritually abused in the Watchtower. And people had a very hard time. People called me before these people even came on and said, Rick, don't do it. But I want everyone to have a voice. But this is way more widespread today than people realize. And the sad part about it in the ex-witness world, Stephanie and Brian, is they all want to see the Watchtower go down. I mean, that has been their goal for as long as I've been exposing the Watchtower in the ex-witness world. But very few are willing to do anything about it. And I've seen this. In 2004, I spoke to a congressman here in Massachusetts, and it was about, I went down with the people from SNAP. You familiar with that group?
Yes.
They're Catholics that, of course, are fighting against child abuse in their organization. So I went down as a witness representing the Jehovah's, ex-witnesses and what was going on then. And we spent 3.5 hours with Congressman Lynch in Boston. And he listened to everything we had to say. He was very much concerned with what we had to say. And when I left, Congressman Lynch said, well, Mr. Farron, what I want you to do is I want you to get some people that have been really hurt, really touched by the tentacles, as we would say. And I want you to bring them to Washington. We'll bring them there. I want them to write a summary on their connection with the Watchtower and what happened to them. So I had one man that wrote a summary. As a matter of fact, you probably know who I'm talking about. His name was Mark Paulo. And Mark Paulo actually claims he was raped by a governing body member of the Watchtower, Leo Greenlees, he claims. And consequently, I had Mark, right? He lives right up. He's dead now. But Mark said that happened to him when he was 8 years old. And he was taken down in the tunnels of the Watchtower. And he was raped by this Leo Greenlees. Now, nobody believed this story. But at least Congressman Lynch, he was willing to investigate it. He said, have the man write a summary. So I got a couple of summaries. And we were told that we were going to have a congressional hearing. This is back in 2004. And we were told we're going to have a congressional hearing. We're going to go to Washington, and we're going to testify before the Senate, before the congressman, on what was taking place in the Watchtower. So I had everything ready to go. I was all excited. And someone put the kibosh to it. And that's what's happened in the past. But maybe in the future, with a lot of people coming forward, it won't. But somebody put the kibosh to it, and Congressman Lynch never had us come there. Now, this also happened to me, and I want to speak about the ex-witness world because they don't, they like to say, they all like to talk a good game, but they don't want to do anything. So another time I had to go kibosh put to something was back in 2000. Well, let's see, that would have been 2014, 15, somewhere around there. And it was a Ramapo. They had a town meeting up in New York about the Ramapo studios that the Watchtower wanted to put in. And they had a meeting where I came in via Zoom because I had something to say about the Jehovah's Witnesses to the neighbors if they knew of all the pedophilia and all the problems the Watchtower had. And so I got talking. I was the first one they brought in to talk about my feelings toward the Watchtower building in Ramapo. And I didn't talk for 2 minutes, not even for a minute, I don't think. And so they shut me right down. And it was really not right they did that because the next day I called the attorney's office in Ramapo and I talked to a person in the attorney's office that said that was wrong. But someone put the kibosh to that. And what irritates me is the whole ex-witness world. We should have had 20, 30 people signing up for that meeting up in Ramapo. Now they're going forth with it. And they're going to get more people to be involved with them. But we should have had 20 or 30 people in that meeting. And myself and one other person showed up. That was it. But what you're trying to do, and I can really see, these people out there in the ex-witness world, if you really want to see the Watchtower go down, and Stephanie mentioned it earlier, you've got an organization that is criminally doing these things. They are hiding it, and speak up about it. If you've been abused, come forward, connect with Stephanie, connect with Brian, let them know your story. And the more people, the more convincing it'll be to the government, the more understanding that people who have been abused will get as well, that there's other people in this camp that have been really hurt by the Watchtower. And this could really hurt the Watchtower financially, as you stated, Stephanie. And that's where it can really hurt in the pocketbook. So I'm advising everybody to, join, get out of the bleachers and get into the game. And Stephanie and Brian are very passionate about this. And I know what a lot of people, they poo-poo it away. And, well, that's just some story they're making up. This is not a story they're making up. These people have been touched and hurt by the Watchtower. Please join their effort. Come in and connect with them. And you're listening to this program, whether you're live tonight or whether it's in the archives. And if you haven't been abused and you know someone that has been abused, let them know about Stephanie. And Stephanie and Brian, I want to tell you, very courageous. Not everybody does this, but there's so many people very, very proud of you. So keep up the good work.
Thank you, Rick.
Yeah, thank you, Rick.
Yeah, we really appreciate
We appreciate what you do.
Yeah, really do appreciate you.
Well, thank you very much. And it's really sad. It's really, really sad. And I can understand it. In fact, I believe I have family members that have been abused. And you're absolutely right. A lot of them are just afraid to speak up. Well, I'm going to encourage them. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. And I've never been abused, and I thank God for that. But I can't imagine what it'd be like that this man, Mark Paulo, who was actually raped by, as he said, a governing body member, he was messed up all of his life. He hurt bad. He ended up getting divorced. His whole family went astray, and some of the family became addicted to drugs, at least one person I know of. And it's just an ongoing spiral. And I never even thought about, but Brian brought it up tonight about all these homeless people too. You pass these homeless people and you wonder I often wonder, how was it that they became homeless? It's not all because of drugs and alcohol. A lot of these people have been abused. And Brian, I'm glad you brought light to that. So that gives a whole new door opening here. I never realized that. But if the government would look into this, they claim there's a big problem with homelessness. Well, do something about it. Let's just change some of these laws. So you guys are making a difference. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of our problems as society will go, like 90% of our problems will go away if we can start treating our children better. And if we can't petition our moral institutions to be moral and to set the groundwork, you know, the pace or the you know, the example, then
I just want to say one more thing, maybe more, but one thing is throughout history, even in the Bible, we've seen sacrifices, children, animals, etc., etc. It's been going on throughout history. We don't even argue the fact that the Aztecs, were doing human sacrifices. Well, guess what? They're still doing it. So whether we believe it, I didn't believe it at first either. Okay. But whether we want to believe it or not, the fact is it's still happening. It gives them power to do those rituals.
and it's what they believe.
It's
truly what they believe.
Yes,
just like
what we believe. That's what they believe.
Church of Satan and the abortions. My moral compass says that's wrong.
What we're up against. Yeah.
But and I'm not asking the audience to agree or disagree.
Right.
This isn't an abortion topic. This is an ideological issue, and we're dealing with the same exact ideological occult that were the Nazis, and they're here now in America, and they're hiding in our churches.
Well, you know what happens too, Stephanie and Brian, is most people are not sexual predators. They're not. But there is a majority, and there's millions of them that are, as Brian was saying earlier.
Right.
And it's just so hard for us who, never would find ourselves getting involved in something like that. It's so grotesque and so unbelievable that people have a hard time believing this is happening. This is there are perverted people that do stuff like this. Now, the average person, they can't even imagine this goes on.
Tell them that happens. No, they can't.
But it does. And so we're all starting to wake up. I know even when I first left the Watchtower and started hearing about, pedophilia, I had a very hard time with that. I really, really did, because I never heard of it in the congregation. But that's something that no one's going to talk about. But I'll tell you what I did hear after I left is the secret order, and you kind of alluded to it tonight, Stephanie.
Mm-hmm.
There's many that are really steeped into occultism. It's like an order of Jehovah's Witnesses that nobody really knows about. But on the 6 Queens in the last 20 years, I've talked to 3 people that told me about this secret order that exists in occultism, and they would meet and they would do some of these things that you were talking about tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, it was so hard for our audience to believe that. But now that it's all coming out and people are being aware of it, and I know Jeffrey Epstein, he brought a lot of attention to this. I mean, he was a bad person, but in many ways, he brought a lot of light to this problem. And a lot of people, they never heard of anything like that. And yet it became national news. So it kind of made things a little more easy to understand. This happens, and you got to really believe it does. And then the other thing that concerns me is a lot of people, at least Jehovah's Witnesses, they think it's the most pure, clean religion and the only Christian religion, but yet they wouldn't do anything like this. Well, my goodness, that's how they get away with it, because people wouldn't think it. But you guys keep exposing them, and I really do think that you're going to get a lot of people in time come and open up.
Yeah, most of the people are good too. Maybe we don't say that enough, but even in the Jehovah's Witnesses or whatever, most of the people are good. It's not.
Yes.
And that's also the approach that we're taking. I mean, granted, I understand the cults to be more than just a religious organization. I understand them to be enemies of the state. So I do look for them to fall. But the actual church, the institutions, these smaller community churches, I actually want them to be saved. Not just Christian churches, but other denominations too. We don't subscribe to one thing over the other. Rather, we subscribe to the goodness and the human spirit. And that's the exact thing that has gone from this world, and they've used our moral institution, demoralized our moral institutions to create this ungodly world.
We could talk about that for a while, but right now, the way the world has been programmed, everything is black and white. It's either this way or that way. There's no in between. You're either with something or you're against something. If you're against something, you're against everything, Is that making any sense?
Yeah, but there has to be room for free will is, I think, where you're getting at. The gray. We have to start seeing the gray.
Right. We have to be able to accept other people's opinions and feelings and understand, people think differently, but when you're abusing children, that's where we have to draw the line.
Yes, absolutely. Rick, thank you so much for giving us this time and space, as usual.
Well, thank you. And it was a good program tonight. And I know we're going to get a lot of listeners that come up when it's put up. A lot of listeners came in near the end here. And you said some things that I'm glad you said it. I'm glad you talked a little bit about satanic ritual abuse. I'm glad you talked about murder even in the Watchtower. People have a hard time with it, but it's evil. And thank you for exposing it.
And the truth is there. And you don't have to just listen to crazy Stephanie on 6 screens. You can go and do your own research. I gave you the case. Her name's Shannon Simondinger out of the Fort Kent congregation. If you go back to the Ernie Fiance transcripts, you will find in there where she spoke about witnessing the child murder. And her civil lawsuit is still ongoing against Watchtower. That was a criminal case where she mentions the child murder. So the evidence is there. We just have to be willing. Like you said, most of our minds are too pure and clean to even imagine this happens. But I'm telling the audience exactly where to find the proof that this has happened at least once. Unfortunately, many, many times, more than that, within the Watchtower organization.
Well, what added a lot of credibility too, excuse me, when we had the convention back in August, and you brought your lawyer up with you and your investigators. And I mean, if this was some crazy, far out Stephanie and Brian wacko story, they never would have came up. But they came up and represented you, were willing to talk to people that have been abused this way in the Watchtower. Mm-hmm. So you're very credible. When I met you guys in person, I was really impressed. You're not some crazy, nutty people that are making stories up. This is a real thing that's happening, friends. And spread the word. Let your friends know if they've been abused to come forward. And give that telephone number that you have out there, Steph, once again to the audience.
Sure. So this is my personal cell phone number, and I'm willing to take phone calls from anyone. My area code is 817-609-5933. Of course, a text message would be best so that I can get to it when I can, because I have 1,000 different things going on. But you're right, Rick. I wish I was crazy. I'd rather be crazy than for this to be true.
Well, you're quite the couple, and may God bless you. And thank you for being on the 6 screens tonight. Thank you for sharing your stories.
Oh, really.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night. Love Dallas. Love you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Well, anyways, folks, that'll end it for the 6 screens tonight, but we'll be back on tomorrow, Sunday, 6 screens, beginning at 1 o'clock, a Sunday edition. Thank you very much for being in with us, and we appreciate your attendance, and we appreciate the fact that you're willing to listen to this couple. Spread the word. Let people know that the Watchtower is an evil organization, and we can all work together to bring this organization down. Thank you very much. Bye now.